Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is pre-match build-up showtime with Liverpool taking on Barcelona on Wednesday night in the first leg of our second Champions League semi-final in as many seasons. Yeah, just another one of those games that we as Liverpool fans are more than accustomed to now, and I'm sure we will breeze through with no problems whatsoever. Obviously, I am kidding. This is incredible. This is what we all want from being Liverpool supporters. This is what Jurgen Klopp is now finally giving us once again. It's where we should be. It's where we belong. There are no times I've felt more like a Liverpool supporter, like sort of in tune with everything that's going on around the club than in these moments, more so than any other title challenge. I think there's just something about the European Cup, the way the competition is formatted, the teams you play against, the way Liverpool can play in this tournament, and just, you know, everything about our history and our link to the famous wins we've had in the past. It just feels right. It feels like we should be here, and that is absolutely fantastic. What a position for this club to be in. And obviously, with the position we are in relative to the league and everything so far this season, this is a massive game for Liverpool. I mean, we have to get a result. Last season, going out in the semi-finals of the Champions League would have been a phenomenal achievement. If you'd offered that to us at the start of last season, we would have bitten your hand off and said, that is incredible. That is more than we could ever have hoped for. But now, with what's going on in the league, this is not a save our season game, because the league isn't gone yet. And if things don't go right and we don't end up winning a trophy, we've still had a phenomenal year. But for this season to not feel like it's ever so slightly petered out right at the end, we need to get a result and keep ourselves going in this competition. That is absolutely vital, because I think if we went out now and we went out of the league as well, it would just be a little bit of a disappointment, because while it's been an amazing season, it's been such a good season that you want to have a trophy to show for at the end of it. You want this to be the Liverpool double winning side of 2019, or the Liverpool title winners of 2019, or the Liverpool champions of Europe of 2019. It can't just be the Liverpool side that had a very good year and played some very nice football, but ultimately fell short because there just so happened to be a couple of other teams in the world who were just that tiny bit better than them. That's not how it should be. This Liverpool team should be beating everyone in front of them, including the Barcelona side we are going to be facing tomorrow night. And listen, obviously it's going to be an incredibly tough game. The Camp Nou is probably the hardest place to go in terms of, you know, how difficult a stadium it is to play in, and the opposition you're playing as well. You know, Barcelona are always an incredible side. They've never not been an incredible side, and they have the stadium to go with it as well. You know, the Camp Nou is never a picnic. It's no surprise that Liverpool are the only English team who've ever won there in either in European competition or just the European Cup, but either way, the only team capable of getting a win at the Camp Nou. And yeah, we've done it twice, because that's just what Liverpool do. It's what I was talking about at the top of the video. We belong in these kind of scenarios, but it's no surprise that is, you know, that stat exists. We've seen teams go to the Camp Nou recently, including English teams, and just not be able to have a kick of the ball, just really struggle, just not get anywhere. You know, Manchester United, and yeah, you know, they're Manchester United, they're crap, let's be honest, they are rubbish. We all know that now, having had to rely on them in the Manchester derby, but they got rolled over without pretty much a sniff in their game against Barcelona. Chelsea last season as well, absolutely useless, couldn't lay a glove on them, and countless other games before then. You know, Spurs played at the Camp Nou, and I think they might have actually got a draw, but that was kind of because, you know, that both Barcelona had already qualified. It only really mattered to Spurs, and obviously they therefore gave an awful lot more. This game now matters loads for both teams. Liverpool obviously want to avenge their Champions League final defeat last season. Barcelona haven't been in a final for 4 years now, and they know that they are too good for that to be the case. This is a massive opportunity for them. The biggest opportunity, I think, since they qualified for the final, because I don't think they've got past the quarter-final stage since then. So it's a massive game for both teams, and I think we will find out just how good this Liverpool team is, because, you know, over the course of the season, because we're so good and the opposition, there's been such a gulf between us and the teams we've been facing, it's almost hard to gauge how good this Liverpool side is. And sometimes we actually think we're not playing well, when in fact we've just kind of descended to the mortal plane. We've suddenly revealed that actually we're not completely invincible. We're pretty much there, but no team is completely invincible, regardless of, you know, how good they are and the opposition they're facing. So I think now is when we really find out just how good this Liverpool side is. We've seen flashes of it in the Champions League already this season when we played against Bayern Munich. And again, that was a game where people don't even think we played that well, and yet we dominated them. They didn't have a sniff going forward, and we cut them to ribbons on the attack. and yet people don't think that was Liverpool at full throttle. So I think we're going to have to be at full throttle on Wednesday night. There's no other way to play because, like I said, Barcelona, brilliant. The new camp, horrible place to play. You have to bring more than your A game for a match like that. And I personally cannot wait to find out just how good this Liverpool side is, because on the evidence we've had so far, it is an absolutely phenomenal team to be able to watch and support. So, you know, it's going to be fantastic. I've just watched Tottenham Ajax, and that was a little bit of a damp squib. You know, obviously Ajax kind of played within themselves a little bit because it's the first leg and it's away from home. And also, you know, they couldn't really play their usual game because Tottenham didn't give them the space to do so, because Tottenham struggled so much because of the players they were missing. I feel like that final is going to be worlds apart from the one we see tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we are going to see the cream of the crop, and it's just, you know, fingers crossed that Liverpool come off just a little bit better than Barcelona do. So team news going into the game, Jurgen Klopp had his press conference today. The big question was, of course, Roberto Firmino and whether or not he was going to be fit after there were all these concerns. Obviously, he misses out against Huddersfield, and then there was all this rubbish about him potentially missing the rest of the season. None of it coming from any sort of credible source. So, you know, I didn't really believe it at the time. I was obviously waiting for any official confirmation. Jurgen Klopp basically said he's going to be fine. He's since then been in training. He's been in full training as well. So, you know, he's fine, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. Roberto Firmino will almost definitely, barring any last-minute hiccups, play at the Camp Nou tomorrow night, which is fantastic news for Liverpool. In terms of injury news in general, we've pretty much got a clean bill of health. You know, Joe Gomez is playing himself back into contention more and more by the game. I think maybe this one comes slightly too soon for him, but, you know, if it had been a couple games later, I certainly think he would have had a major shout for playing in this game. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, obviously another one who maybe it comes a little bit soon for, but certainly will be involved in some capacity, could be on the bench, could even come on as a substitute. You know, obviously, we're probably not going to have it wrapped up 5-0 with 20 minutes to go like we pretty much did against Huddersfield, so he might not get that kind of appearance, but it is possible that Ox gets a little bit of a kick of the ball, because if we can give him any chance to be fit as a fiddle or thereabouts for the second leg in a week's time, then I think we have to take that chance with both hands, because he could be such an important player for us. And also, with Newcastle coming up so soon at the weekend, we are going to have to think about squad rotation, so maybe there's a space for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain there. But all things considered, team news-wise, we have done brilliantly. We've pretty much got a clean bill of health. We are going into the Camp Nou at absolute full strength. So as for how I think we're actually going to line up, then obviously the goalkeeper is Alisson Becker. I think this is going to be a really interesting game, and is really going to tell us how good Alisson Becker is and how much of a bargain he was for the 65 odd million that we paid for him, simply because it kind of reminds me, it's a kind of similar situation to a game he played in the Champions League last season against Atletico Madrid when he was still playing at Roma, and they drew that game 0-0. But Atletico all just walked over Roma all night, and obviously I'm not expecting Barca to do that, but I am expecting them to get chances, because, you know, they are that good a team that that's just going to happen. And I think these are the kind of games that we really bought Alisson Becker for. We bought him for games like the Champions League final last season, where Karius wilted. Alisson Becker will, in theory, rise up to the occasion and deliver a brilliant performance and keep Liverpool in the result. And if we need him, hopefully we won't need him to keep us in the tie, but it's possible we do. We will be able to use him to do exactly that. So this is a huge game for Alisson Becker, and I, for one, am excited to see what he's got to offer, because I think we all know he's a fantastic goalkeeper. We just need some more games to really, really stamp that fact home. In terms of the actual defence, I think the centre-back pairing is a really interesting one, because if Matip had played against Huddersfield, I would have said him and Van Dijk are nailed on to play alongside each other in this game. But the fact that Lovren was thrust in against Porto and then played again against Huddersfield a little bit out of the blue, to me suggests that Jurgen Klopp actually wants him for this game, because bear in mind that was the back four that played in the Champions League games last season. It's the back four that delivered a phenomenal performance in the final as well, and deserves so much more than to come away with a runners-up medal, having conceded 3 goals. All of them played brilliantly, including Dejan Lovren. So I think there's a shout for him playing tonight. And I also think, you know, considering, what's his name? Luis Suarez. What do I mean, what's his name? You know, Liverpool legend, essentially, Luis Suarez. Considering his style of play, I almost think Dejan Lovren would be more suited to that, simply because he is much more physical. And I think, you know, while you could maybe say he could get a dribble past a bit easier, that's not really Luis Suarez's game either. He's got skills with the ball at his feet, but he is a bit of a bulldozer as well. And I think Lovren's more up to that challenge than Joel Matip is. However, Matip has played brilliantly over the last few games. He's proved me wrong. I was a bit of Joel Matip doubter. So if I'm being perfectly honest, I find this one absolutely impossible to call. But given that Joel Matip has played at the heart of the defence alongside Virgil van Dijk for so many games, and has been pretty solid so far. I think Jurgen Klopp goes with that back line, at least for this game, and then potentially tweaks it for the game in a week's time at Anfield. And then obviously the fullbacks. No question there whatsoever. By no means should we be going conservative there, because quite simply, we play through them so much that we cannot afford to drop them out. We need to go to the new camp with a positive mindset. We can't be going there thinking, let's try and snatch a 0-0. We've got to be going there and saying, we can beat Barca, because we can. We've been to the Allianz, we've been to the Stadio Olimpico, which is a brilliant stadium, and, you know, a bit of a fortress as well. We've been to the Etihad Stadium last season, which it's not an amazing stadium, has an amazing team playing at it. We've been to all these places where we should be struggling. People would suggest that maybe you keep it tight and go to win the tie at home. Liverpool haven't done that. Liverpool have just gone and tried to bomb out the opposition and destroy them on the break and stuff like that. So we need to play our best fullbacks. We need to play our most attacking fullbacks. And that is, of course, Alexander-Arnold on the right and Andrew Robertson on the left. The midfield, again, we've got some important questions to ask and answer here. And once again, they're good questions. They're good ones to have. We haven't got a midfield selection dilemma because of injuries. We've got it because we've got about 5 or 6 players in there who deserve to start this game. There are so many people who are going to be on the bench on Wednesday night who don't deserve to be on the bench, who should be out on the pitch given they're all for Liverpool Football Club. But by virtue of the fact we're only allowed 11 players on the pitch, that's just not going to be the case. I think Fabinho is absolutely nailed on for this match. I think, you know, this is the match he was bought for. A player who can play make from deep, stop breaks, be positionally aware, be physical when necessary, be silky when necessary, do everything you need from a deep line playmaker in a Jurgen Klopp system who's also got a little bit of needle about him and isn't afraid to get physical. And I think we can all rejoice at the fact that the referee is one who Barcelona absolutely hate for the game tomorrow night. You know, they hate the way that he's considered permissive. He allows not fouls, but physical challenges, ones that other referees might not let you get away with. So I think that's obviously huge, because that's going to be a really big part of how we play, especially in the middle of the park where Barcelona are going to be all about technical ability. And I think we're going to be all about robust pressing, flying into tackles, not giving them an inch of space, basically making life for hell for them. And Fabinho is vital to that. Henderson is the other player who I think is nailed on to start this game. You cannot deny Jordan Henderson a start. You know, the way he's been playing, the dynamism he's shown, the leadership he's shown as well, the end product that he's started to bring to his game since playing in a slightly further ahead role is absolutely vital. And if we are under the cosh, he knows how to play defensively. He can sit in alongside Fabinho and shut up shop for 15 minutes or so and weather a Barcelona storm, because I think we've got to expect that is going to happen at some point during the game. So he's nailed on as well. That last spot is a really difficult one to call. I think you can make an argument for all of them. You know, Gini van Alden, he can do a little bit of everything, which is so important, because it's hard to tell how games like this are going to go. You know, James Milner, Jurgen Klopp loves him in these type of games. He's also got a bit of a point to prove against Lionel Messi after Messi made an absolute show of him back in, I believe it was 2015, with a few brutal nutmegs. So he'll be fired up for this game. And also, he brings again that kind of heavy tackle. You know, I'm reminded of that one on Neymar in the game at Anfield, where straight away you knew what type of game it was going to be. James Milner went up to Neymar and told him what kind of game it was going to be with his feet by absolutely clattering him with his whole body, to be perfectly honest. So I think Milner's a shout in there. But Keita as well, I just think going forward, if we get the Keita that we knew we were getting at the start, you know, the Keita that's taken a little bit of time to come out but finally feels like he's arriving, then he's nailed on to start this game as well. So I feel like Jurgen Klopp goes with Keita just because he likes Naby Keita and he knows what Naby Keita's got in his locker, and I think he'll see this as kind of the baptism of fire moment that could really bring the best out of Naby Keita. Similar to the home leg of the game against Bayern Munich, where Keita was thrust in, having not really played much football before that, and played an absolute blinder. I mean, ran the show from midfield at times, and I think we need a player like him who can press, fly into tackles again. You know, maybe we need to teach him a little bit of positional awareness. He'll probably have to play within himself a little bit more, and that's why I maybe think that Milner might have to play. But I think Jurgen Klopp will look at what we want to do going forward and think Naby Keita has got so much to offer there. So I think he plays in the midfield three, and then the front three, I mean, it's got to be Mane, Salah and Firmino. I mean, anyone who's not confident going into this game, and I'll be honest, I haven't met anyone who isn't confident. I think everyone's so excited and really believes Liverpool can get a result. But if you need a little bit of a boost, just look at that front three. They're brilliant and they're built for games like this. A massive pitch, a team that's going to come at you, a team that's going to play a high line, will give you pressing opportunities, will have space in behind, will be vulnerable to the long ball. You know, it's perfect. It's meat and drink for Salah, Firmino and Mane. And you know what? I think they could get a fair few goals. I think this is going to be the kind of game where we are going to see goalkeepers picking the ball out of the back of the net an awful lot. So speaking of what type of game it's going to be, a little bit of a word on Barcelona. I mean, they're no secret, are they? We know how they play. We know who their best players are. I think you have to live under a rock to not know who Barcelona's best player is. So on that side of things, we kind of know. We know their strengths, certainly. In terms of weaknesses, it's a little bit more of a grey area because generally they don't have that many. I mean, just looking back on the game they played against Manchester United, obviously, again, Man United are crap, so they didn't really do anything. But if they were a little bit better, I think they would have at least managed to get a goal and potentially push Barcelona further than absolutely crumbling within the first 20 minutes of the game at the Camp Nou. You know, Barcelona, they do leave spaces in behind. They are susceptible to counter-attacks. Manchester United's best opportunities came through getting the ball forward as quickly as possible, getting them through to players like Marcus Rashford. And obviously, as we know, Liverpool love to play like that. And I think we've sort of managed to set ourselves up now to have the midfield that facilitates that the best. Because obviously the issue we have is because the fullbacks bomb on so much, the midfield almost has to be a little bit more conservative than maybe our style of play and the way we set up and the way we look to attack opponents kind of suggests. Last season it pretty much worked because Milner, Wijnaldum, Oxlade-Chamberlain as well was absolutely fantastic, and Henderson all played brilliant games in the Champions League. It's not quite clicked at times this season, but I think now the balance we've got with Fabinho playing deep, Henderson being a little bit more unleashed and allowed to play a little bit more further forward, and then a player like Keita completing the trio, or even a player like James Milner who, you know, people kind of forget how much he's got to offer going forward because of his age, but he's still fantastic. You know, broke the Champions League record for assists, most assists in a single campaign last season. So that tells you all you need to know about what James Milner's got to offer the front three. But you know, Barcelona, they will leave themselves open to the counter. The long ball is also a threat, and you might look at Liverpool and think, well, they're not a long ball team, but you look at some of the goals we scored last season, especially against Manchester City, they don't necessarily come from balls over the top in the air, but they do come from raking 50-yard passes that split through the lines. And when Barca play the high line they do, when they play the expansive football they do, and like I said, on that massive pitch, there are going to be gaps, and I'd back our players to find them. And obviously, listen, they are fantastic, and they do have this little fella called Lionel Messi who is a bit good. And if I'm honest, I'm so glad we're playing Barcelona over two legs and not in the final, because the thing with Lionel Messi is if he turns it on, that's it. That is just kind of it. The best you can hope for is to get some goals of your own at the other end, maybe snatch a draw, possibly get some sort of miracle 3-2 or 4-3 win. But when Messi is on it, he's just pretty much unstoppable. And it is essentially, you know, irresistible force that meets immovable object on Wednesday night, because he's going to come up against Virgil van Dijk, who literally doesn't get dribbled past ever. So that's obviously a fascinating lineup. But I think it's a little bit more than Messi versus Van Dijk. I don't think it's going to be anything like that for the full 90 minutes at all. Watching the way he's played in the Champions League so far this season, he drops deep so often, he cuts inside so often. Everything they do goes through him, so he has to come central quite a lot, and he has to come into those deeper areas and almost play as a number 10 at times. Sometimes he'll be direct and he'll dribble, and he's going to cause Andrew Robertson all sorts of problems, I'm sure. But I think the midfield are the players that are going to have to be really aware, because, you know, I look at that brilliant goal that he scored against Manchester United in the second leg, the first one where he bends it in from outside the box on his left foot. And I think there's about 3 or 4 moments in the build-up where Manchester United players cock up, where I think no Liverpool player in our team is going to make that kind of mistake. And as long as the midfield is on it and aware of Lionel Messi and helps out the back line and essentially says our priority is just making sure he doesn't even get to our defence in the first place, make sure that he has to rely on his teammates to get them goals because he can't get anywhere near that penalty box, then we should be all right. And obviously, look, that's easier said than done. It's Lionel Messi. But what I'm hoping is he won't be on top form for the full 180 minutes of this tie. It's possible he will be, and if that happens, you've got to hold your hands up and say fair play. But the chances are he won't be, and what we've got to make sure is when Lionel Messi is not running the show and ripping us to bits, we go and do the business at the other end and put the ball in the back of the net more time than him and his mates do. So, listen, it's a fantastic tie. It's the dream tie. It's the tie that I think everybody wants to see, because it's just two teams who score a load of goals, who play attractive football, who have slightly conflicting styles as well, so they're not going to cancel each other out. They are going to sort of, you know, cross each other in a very strange way, where I think both teams are going to get a lot of joy at various points over the two legs. It is just absolutely fantastic, and what better stage to play it in than a historic, incredible ground like the Camp Nou. So, listen, I'm excited. You're excited. The entire footballing world is excited. And listen, at the end of the day, here's hoping we can just get a win, man. I mean, it's going to be difficult, but I think Liverpool don't tend to do these things by halves. We're not going to go to the Camp Nou and say, let's just get a draw. Let's try and get a half-decent result and maybe turn them over at Anfield. Liverpool are going to go to the Camp Nou and say, let's absolutely batter them. Let's win 3 or 4-0 and have this tie done before they even step foot in Merseyside. So, and Barcelona are going to think like that as well. They're going to know that this is their home leg. This is their big opportunity. This is their chance to stamp their authority on the tie. They're going to try and win 3 or 4-0 as well. It's such a tough one to call. Score prediction, I'd have to say maybe 2-1 Liverpool. Let's go with that. I think it's going to be tough to stop Barcelona scoring, but likewise for them, I don't think they're going to stop us scoring, and I think we can probably get a couple of goals. And our game management, the maturity of our midfield now, the fact that they are used to playing in games like this should help see out the result and make sure that nothing goes catastrophically wrong. But the bottom line is, I'm really, really excited for it. I'm going to Boss Night as well. That's kind of what helps the excitement. I'm sure that is going to be a phenomenal night, and I'm hoping that I have a wonderful, excited, party atmosphere post-match reaction for you guys tomorrow after the game. But yeah, that is all today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, as always, hit the like button down there, hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter. And I'll be back tomorrow night after we've hopefully smashed Barcelona in their own backyard. Until then, bye for now.